What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Man, it's good to meet you.
You too.
Really cool, dude. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for showing up.
Oh, of course, man. I know we've been trying to schedule it, so I'm really glad that we made it work.
You're a busy guy.
Yeah, I'm blessed. I will definitely say I'm blessed.
That's really cool. Chris has always spoke so fondly of you.
Oh, man, I love him. He's a good. I haven't seen him in too long in person, but I love that dude. He's a good guy.
He seems to be doing well, dude. He really does. I'm happy for him. He's a good friend. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, dude. Well, again, welcome. Thanks for joining and doing the podcast. I heard about you from, obviously through knowing Chris, and he was always like, and there was this, he always kind of used you as like a North Star. And then there was my friend, Jordan from Golds, and he was a big guy, not as big as you. I don't think he said that. That's my internal monologue.
Of
And
course.
he said you just lost a ton of weight. And I don't know if it was exactly what we were doing and when we were doing it when he told me to bring up your name and your Instagram profile, but I just remember bringing it up and I was like, oh my God, look at you. Dude, you did it. You went all the way there. And even to the point of at some point you had to deal with some loose skin and you ended up getting some surgery to kind of reconstruct your body because you had just completely transformed your physique. What is this? Has this been just like the biggest? I guess I should say welcome. I'm not really good at this. Uh,
No worries.
I,
You're
I
good.
is this just been like the biggest? What's it been like in your mind going from being morbidly obese to being like a professional bodybuilder at this point, or at least aspiring bodybuilder, amateur body, award-winning bodybuilder? I mean, help me out.
All of those.
Tell tell me everything all at once. I'm just going to ask you all the questions at one time, and then let you just sort of answer them as you choose fit. Uh,
Man,
what's it been like, first of all, in your mind, just to go through this, and then what's it been like in your body to go through this?
yeah, great questions. I mean, mentally it's been a challenge, but it's been so rewarding, and it's been a long road. So I always like, this has been taking, I've been at this since 2008. Really, that's when I first started. um, and I think what's interesting is I never envisioned like getting to where I've been able to go. I was just like, just get a little bit better, just try to improve little by little, like lose some weight. Don't be knocking on death's door at my own doing, because that's where I was. So it was like just by making those incremental movements forward. And then eventually, I like joined Golds. I met Chris. I met these people who were like at levels that I didn't even understand yet. And I was like, oh, like this is cool. Like I can keep pushing myself and just keep trying to improve, to where, when all was said and done, I had lost over 200 pounds, and just not just the losing the fat, but like I had to start at ground zero as far as strength training, because I was like, did none of it in the beginning, and which in retrospect I regret, but I was like, wow, like there are people who can like bench press 3 plates on each side. Like that's amazing to me, like I would love to be
Just so
able.
you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I could barely even fathom, like I could do like 95 once I was working out consistently, so it was like I just saw that there's like so much potential, and so much room to improve. And I think that that really just kind of led me down this path of like, just keep trying to get better and like do different things. And it's been awesome. And mentally, the shift from, I mean, realistically, honestly, Russell, I was like slowly killing myself and I was fine with it for many years. And that was just like, that's how I expected things. I was like, I'm just gonna have a short and sad life,
Mm.
and it would be my own
How old were
doing.
you when you were? I interrupt a little bit too much. How
No
old were
worries.
you when you were kind of having these epiphanies? And what year was that?
So it was 2008. I was in a head-on car collision, and it was March 31st, March 30th. I get, um, and I was like, I really easily could have not made it out of that car crash. My airbag was just connected, like reconnected, a few hours before, because it was literally just unplugged for about a week.
Wow.
And so I was like, okay, there's a reason that this has happened, and like I need to get my shit together. That was, just in my mind, I'm like, I have been slowly just like undoing myself. And that could have been it. So I was like, okay, I really need to like do something about this. And it was 2008. There was no social media, there was no internet community really. So I was like, I just need to figure out something. So I just started by walking with my dog and eating healthier. I was just, I made a vow to myself, like no more fast food, no more soda. I didn't really even know what I should be eating necessarily, but like we know the stuff we know the stuff that's not good for us.
I've heard a lot. I've heard a few people say that lately. Everyone's getting so argued in the minutia of what you should be doing when the obvious don'ts are like the big stones. You know what I mean? Like those are the big rocks that move things, and people sort of instinctively know that, right? People know don't
Mhm.
touch, don't touch the junk food, don't touch the soda, stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's the stuff that like it stands out, because when I was going in the other direction, I would overdo those things. So I would drink probably a couple thousand calories of soda in a day, or just, milkshakes when I would get fast food, like just the stuff that like I'm like, okay, I need to not do that. I was like, okay, maybe I'll just drink water. Maybe I'll just drink iced tea or so, just something that wasn't that. And it was those big stones that I was like starting to see some progress already with the walking. And I was like, oh wow, like I could actually do this. But mentally, it's a big shift because I mean, I literally, Russell, I remember like I would finish, I was in school, I'd finish class and I would just like exit the campus and my car would just make its way over into the drive-through. And I literally had to like just turn and be like, no, like we're not doing that. I'm gonna go to the place that sells salad and
Yeah. I
just
used to
so
call
that I
that
could
my
do something
autopilot.
different.
I used
Yeah.
to call that my autopilot. Whenever I lost thoughtfulness of what I
Hmm.
was doing, I would just automatically, or do just automatically gravitate towards those unhealthier choices. And it's so uh habitual. It's so
Right.
ingrained that it's just what you do. You don't have to tell yourself to do it. You have to tell yourself to not do it.
Exactly. And it's autopilot. You're so right. Like you don't think about, you're not being mindful, right? And I think once you kind of start to tap into like being present, being aware, like, and obviously, I mean, we know like this is something I still battle with. It's a lifelong, and I always tell it's not like other addictions where like you can just not drink, you can not do drugs. You have to eat. You have to. So you're always fighting this like all those foods light up your brain and it tastes good, it's pleasurable, but we have to fight it. And so it's a lifelong commitment that I've learned. It's like you never are done. You're never like, oh, okay, I've totally conquered all the cravings and all like, and some people might say that they do, but I think deep down we know that like that stuff is in us. It's autopilot. And it wants to come back out, and like we have to work at it every day. That's just the reality, at least from myself. And like, I've now been coaching people and helping people with their own journeys for many years, and I see it in like everyone. So it's like there's no easy cheat code necessarily. And there's no like undoing that autopilot stuff completely. Like we're always kind of like, hey, is that looking over your shoulder? Like, am I going to come back and just get swept up in it? Um, but I think, from my own experience and the people I've worked with, like the longer that you're able to be mindful and work on these healthy habits, the stronger they become and the less likely you are to like go back to the autopilot, to the default, like you mentioned. Um, but it's still part of us, which sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks, but it's the reality.
Yeah. Has there been anybody that just I wonder how much I wonder what the rate is of people that lose that gravity, that just completely let go of the gravity and don't seem to have any pull. I'd like to think that's possible. I'd like to think that the food noise and all that stuff you hear about in your head eventually just sort of dissipates, you know? Has it gotten quieter for you?
It's definitely quieter, definitely. And I think, it's natural for it to kind of ebb and flow. For like it's not always one way and it's not always another. There's sometimes where I just am like, damn, I could like eat a whole jar of peanut butter and not even think about it. And sometimes I do it. Very rarely, but like it can happen. And a lot of times I'm like, oh yeah, that would like taste really good, right? Like your brain knows like that's pleasurable, but it's like then I'm gonna feel like shit about myself, and then I'm gonna
Yeah.
not, and I'm not gonna feel the way I want to feel. I'm not gonna train the way I want to train, and
Right.
so it's really I don't know, the food noise thing. I know that there's now like stuff out there that helps people with that. But I think you can't really turn it off. I think you just have to learn how to like tell it. Am I allowed to curse?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. You
Speak
tell
freely.
it to shut the fuck up. You're like,
Yeah.
I got
Right.
goals, like and you just have, and it sometimes it wins,
Yeah.
and that's normal. I think that people have to understand that like there's no, in this whole process, I've been doing it for gosh, since 2008. I'm not great with math on the fly, but it's been many years.
Oh, many years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's still a process.
How old were you in 2008?
I was 21. I want to, yeah, 21.
21. And you said you had lost a couple 100 pounds. So if you don't mind sharing, how heavy were you then when you sort of launched into this?
Yeah, in 2008, the most I ever like saw on a piece of paper was from I went to the hospital after that car crash.
Yeah.
That was 421 pounds because
And
I
go
wouldn't
ahead.
get on a scale, under my own volition. Like
Yeah.
what it's upsetting, at that point.
Yeah.
And a lot of scales didn't measure that high back then.
Right.
So it was yeah, that was the highest that I saw recorded. And actually when I first started this whole process, I was in denial and I thought I weighed under 400. And I just totally threw that out of I was like, oh, I was like 370, 360,
Uh-huh.
and then I actually was moving one day and I found the record from the hospital from that night, and that, it's just patient height, patient weight. And I was like, oh, blood pressure was like crazy.
Yeah.
Um,
Now, did you play any sports as a kid? Were you an active kid?
I was always active, but I was big. I was just a big kid. And, I grew up in the time, you'd ride your bikes around the neighborhood and you had your buddies over and you would, run around and like I was active, but I loved food. And when I think back, I remember like the first memories of like something I really liked was like peanut butter and jelly sandwich time I don't know how young I was, but I was a little kid and everyone would have their peanut butter and jelly sandwich on the playground that they would give us. And I'd eat mine and then like circle back into the line and get back in and have another one.
Really?
Like I was like, it's delicious. It feels good.
Yeah.
And I don't, at that time, like I wasn't really processing any trauma or as far as I know, nothing bad had happened to me. I just really liked it.
Yeah.
It
Food's
was
delicious.
pleasurable. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
delicious. Peanut butter and jelly, classic.
What year was it when you had your skin removal surgery?
So that was 2013. So I'll give you a little. So 2008, I started, right, in
Okay.
March. By 2010, I had lost 200 pounds. I weighed 209, which I have never weighed that since, and I don't actually ever plan to, because I was just skin and bones.
Yeah.
But I lost like over 200 pounds of fat.
Uh-huh.
And so that was 2010. And then that's when I started working out in the gym, like seriously, trying to get stronger, build some muscle. Cause I'm like, okay, I can't do pull ups and I'm like not good at push ups. And I lost all this weight. I thought I would be fit. I
Yeah.
thought I'd be like,
Right.
ready to compete or whatever,
Was
just
that
to get
any kind of a disappointment for you? Was there any sad feelings like the new body was still not the body you wanted?
absolutely. And it was frustrating. Like I said, I really, when I first joined the gym, I remember I would bench press the empty barbell, 45 pounds, and a set of 12 reps like killed me. I was like, oh my, like, and I would see these guys and even like my friends who could do, 225. I'm like, oh my God, how do they do that? Like, I thought once I like got in shape, right, that I would like be there.
Yeah.
I was so far away, so it was frustrating, and all the skin, which I rather have the skin than be the way I was,
Sure.
but it was frustrating because I was like, I can't see all the results, from like the shoulders up, it looked cool.
Yeah.
So I remember I would, take like a Facebook profile picture that was like from here to here.
So my
And
boobs start right here. It's not by accident that this is where the camera stops there.
yeah, exactly.
My man tits are enormous, and there they are. Show them to
No,
the.
I mean,
Uh,
mine was, it was like, I have one photo, and this is honestly, I regret this, but I didn't know, like, a lot of people, and you've probably done this, like, if you start this journey, like, you're going to make it, you're going to lose the weight. So you take like a full 360-degree view of where you're at.
sure,
You put it in, even if you don't post it, but like, you have it,
it's
right?
somewhere. It's somewhere in the archives.
Yeah, like there was no way on earth that I would do that when I
Yeah,
started, because I was like, it's probably not going to work. Like and people didn't do that back then. That
right.
wasn't, you never saw a guy who was 420 pounds with, I mean, my man boobs were massive, dude. Like it was just, so I have one photo, which I've actually never posted. It's from the night of the car accident, and it literally is just a close up of my chest because I had a huge bruise from the seat belt.
Uh-huh.
So it was documenting the injury, and it's just like, I mean, you can't even tell that it's me because it's just a big thing of flesh and all bruised up.
Yeah.
So the disappointment, like when I like lost all this weight, I worked so hard over 2 years, and then I was like, shit, like I need to now completely change gears and try to get stronger and build muscle. And in my head, Russell, I was like, let me see how much of this skin, because it's so much, I can like fill out with muscle, right? I didn't really know. I mean, there's no way to put on 200 pounds of muscle. That's,
Just not right.
we,
You can help it
we've
out,
not,
but you
yeah,
can't. You can't erase the effects you made, right?
right.
Yeah.
So I tried and I did my best, and I did, I was very dedicated, and I worked on just getting stronger and getting, growing the muscle. And like, I got to a point where I was like, okay, this is about as far as I can go. That was 3 years in. And then I decided, after I consulted with a bunch of different surgeons, that I'm gonna like have this guy who's in Marina Del Rey, Dr. Stoker, I'm gonna have him do this.
He's a genius, by the way. I followed
Right?
on Instagram. Just the what they can do is so impressive.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I went to so many different surgeons, nothing against them, but as soon as I went to him and I went through his little book and I talked to him, I was like, you just get the fit. I'm like, this is the guy who's gonna give me the result that I want because
Right.
I've been working so hard.
Right.
So it was the day after Christmas, December 26th, 2013, that I had that surgery, and they took off 10 pounds of skin, which was crazy. Like I was lean, but I basically treated it like a competition. I came in like as lean as I could get. I was in the best shape possible. They took off 10 pounds. I have a picture of the skin too, which is also one I've never posted because I don't think anyone wants to see that.
Yeah.
Um, but it was crazy, like just the amount of, and I remember the first time I like saw myself in the mirror, they take off the big bandages. And this has never happened to me besides this time. I like almost passed out. I was like it just, I remember I like felt, I was like, holy shit. Like it
Of
just,
yourself looking at yourself.
yeah, because
Wow.
I was so used to that skin and that, and just like, I mean, I was super swollen. It was all, they did 1,000 stitches or whatever it was, but I was like, it just like mentally, I don't know if I just wasn't ready. Like I was like, holy shit, that's me.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
Um, and it was life changing, honestly.
Yeah. So that was in 2013. So here we are, 10 years later. So
Yeah.
and you have done something which seems to be pretty rare. You have taken the weight off and held it off.
Mhm.
Where's been the lessons in that for you?
I mean, like I said, it's a daily battle, honestly. And it ebbs and flows. Sometimes I get a little too heavy for my own liking. I get a little too lax with what I'm eating. I take a little bit too much liberty. Um, but I think just the lesson is that like I now know that I cannot go back to the way I was. Like I believe in myself so much that I'm like, okay, even let's say if I just like stop working out and I'm eating whatever, like it's still never going to be the way it was. It's still never going to be that guy eating in that way, self-destructing, because that like I don't want to say I've transcended it, but I've killed that off.
Yeah.
That just like, so no matter how bad it gets, when I'm like sometimes like, oh, like I could have, had more chicken instead of eating a bunch of popcorn or what, whatever it is. I'm still like, it's so far away from where I was. And I think the biggest lesson, and this is what I have worked on for years, and this is what I work on with my clients, is to trust yourself, and to trust yourself to not go back and to not make those choices, no matter how difficult it is, and no matter how, and we falter, right? We're humans, like it happens. It's part of the deal. But to not let that make us think that we're just going back, or that it's a lost cause, because it's so easy to go like, oh well, I put on another extra 20 pounds over the holidays, which I can do. My body, like, it wants to freaking put on weight. That's just how I am. And instead of going like, shit, like this is actually never going to work, and I'm just going to go back to where I was, and soon I'll be 300 and then back to 400 pounds, like, to cut that off and to be like, no, like I trust myself, and whatever I have gotten to, I know I can undo. I know I can refocus. And I think that's the biggest kind of gift that I like to leave with people, is to like build the trust in themselves, to know that like this shit is not easy. It's not. I don't care what anyone, people, oh, like weight loss is easy. No. Or maybe losing it is, but keeping it off and building that new lifestyle and trusting yourself to be committed to it is not easy. And I think it's okay. We have to just accept that like this is hard.
So, and I wasn't mistaken, right? I've seen pictures of you on stage posing, right?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
What was that like? Tell me, when did you make that decision? And tell me about that, going from 400-pound man to on stage bodybuilder. Tell me, give me that story. What brought you to that?
Yeah.
What was it like, and what have you learned from it?
It was extreme. I'm going to start with that. It was extreme. It was crazy. God bless my wife, because she put up with my shit during that time. It was crazy, man. I mean, I now go to Gold's in Venice, right? That's where I met Chris Bell. That's where I met like all these people. And that's like a lot of people in there are competitors. And so when I actually, and I'll back it up a little, I competed in powerlifting in 2014, basically right after I recovered from my surgery. And it was basically a friend of mine who was a trainer at Gold's. He saw me at lifting and training, getting back. And I had to start back with the bar empty after the surgery. And he was like, hey man, like I think it would be a really cool like project to have you do powerlifting and like get up on a powerlifting competition stage and compete. And I was like, that sounds crazy. Like I'm not strong. He's like, I'll help you. And the whole community of Golds like kind of rallied. It was really cool.
Sweet.
Chris was like super into it. And I just fought. This guy coached me. My buddy Josh Squires is awesome. And I remember one day, like, I was getting ready for it and I was doing all this stuff. And Charles Glass, he's the godfather of bodybuilding.
Right.
He,
Charles.
yeah, he
Wow.
came up and he's like, hey man, he's like, how's the training for your meet going? And I was like, what? Like, like, it's a community, and he was like, we talked for like 20 minutes. He was telling him about his best lifts in the gym and like how strong he was. And I'm like, so, I did that powerlifting competition. I came in dead last, by the way, in my weight category, dead last, but I had so much fun. And I squatted more than I used to weigh. And that was my goal. I was like, I just want to squat over 420 pounds. I don't care what anyone else around me is doing. One guy, Russell, in my thing. And I mean, you work out in a powerlifting environment
Yeah,
sometimes.
I've seen some strong guys.
This dude squatted like eight something. And I was like, I've never seen anything like it. I was like, that is so cool. I mean, obviously he was in first place, right? But I was like, 800, like double what I did. What? Like,
Yeah.
so I got a little taste of like competing. And I was like, oh, that's like kind of cool, because I was so far away. I was obese and I was like sports, exercise, like that shit is not for me. So to go from that to like competing in a lifting competition, I thought was a really great kind of step in that direction. And then so I was into powerlifting. I wasn't great at it. Still not great at it. I kept getting hurt every time I would sign up for another competition. So in 2017, I got hurt again. I was 2 weeks out from a meet. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't like just try to lift heavy. Maybe I should like try bodybuilding, like just see what happens. And I had torn my pec, and I remember I was like miserable. I was bummed. I was like so upset about it. And I'm like, okay, what can I do to like flip the narrative in my mind, right? Instead of like, oh, I'm a power lifter and now I can't do it. I was like, you know what? My wife, she's like, let's sign up for a half marathon. That's gonna be in March. And then I was like, yeah, that's pretty crazy. Like, I can run. My pec doesn't impact my running. I can
Yeah.
run, sure,
Yeah.
slow. And then I hired a coach, a guy at Gold's, and I was like, I want to do a bodybuilding show in October. And I
Wow.
found the show that had a transformation category. And
Okay.
again, it was like one of those things where I was like, I don't care who else is up there or who's, like the transformation category. They blew up a photo of me at 421 pounds behind me, like 40 feet tall. And I walked out with a six pack and like, in tiny little shorts and a fake tan. It was like the crazy juxtaposition.
Yeah.
So I was like, so getting ready for it. I mean, I was starving, Russell. I was doing a ton of cardio. I was training really hard, but I was so focused because I had this idea in my head. I'm like, I want to be the best possible shape, like look the most drastically different from that before photo that I can. Um, I also wanted to win. I thought that this one guy that I don't know if you know Possible Pat. He's like an old school. He was a weight loss guy who
Okay.
competed. Um,
Is he on Instagram?
he's on Instagram, and
Okay. I'm listening to.
I yeah, he told me that he was going to do that show. So I showed my coach him, and he looked great. And I was like, I got to beat this guy. So
So
I came in.
no prior animosity. You just found the victim of.
Right. Well, he told me he was going to do it. He's like, yeah, and I'd known him. Like we talked before we had met, and he's like, yeah, I'm doing that show in LA. So I'm like, all right, like this is the guy I got to be on this, level. Um, and so when I went up there and I mean, I was in these tiny little shorts, tanned up with a fake tan, and I was like 220 pounds just shredded. Like I just, no fat. I mean, I was eating literally just chicken and vegetables for the like through 2 or 3 weeks leading up to it. That's it. And I was just like a machine, And it felt really cool to see myself like that. But the reality is, especially for me, it's not sustainable.
This is maybe this is just the most obvious question to you. I'm not sure. It seems a little obvious to me asking it, but I still feel like I want to ask it anyways. Okay.
Yeah,
Awesome. So, what's life like now compared to life at 400 pounds?
man, it's to say better wouldn't even accurately describe it. It's a whole new life, right? And it's just so much, I think, opportunity that I allow to be into my life now. I mean, I'm married, I have a successful business, we have a place, like all these things that I didn't believe were in my future. Having a body that can like do stuff, like I can take my dogs for a hike. They're a little lazy, but I can do it. I can, run, I can move, I can help other people with their journeys. Like all these things that I totally wouldn't have thought were possible for me have kind of unlocked because of doing this work. And I think that that is the most important part, is just seeing like we have so much potential in us, all of us, that sometimes we write it off. We're like, oh, that's not for me. That's not like, it's for those people. And I think that just challenging myself and doing all this stuff has shown me that like there's a lot of stuff we could do, and I think that life is so much better because that opens all these opportunities. And like I said, like I'm not good at a lot of these things, which is fine. Like I don't care, if I do a half marathon, I'm freaking slow. It's fine. That's not what I'm not doing it to win it. I'm doing it because I can. And I think that just that's the thing that unlocks is like, you start doing like you, I'm swimming. Like I live in a building that has a pool and I just like go out there and I'm not like self-conscious. I'm not thinking about like, oh, what about like, and I'm not perfect. I got stretch marks. I still got extra skin that didn't get taken off. I got scars, all the, like, but I go for it anyway. And I think that like unlocking the possibilities is the coolest part because it's limitless.
I feel like you're definitely qualified to answer this next question. I'd call, and I mean this affectionately. I
Yeah.
would call you a certified gym bro. Yes.
Yes.
How many years have you been going to the gym?
Let's see. I joined in 2010, so 14 years. And
14 years.
I
Okay.
joined, yeah, Golds in 2011.
And I know Golds is a little bit in and of its own self a unicorn, right? But just in
Hmm.
general, uh, what's gym has gym culture changed much in the last 10, 15 years that you've noticed?
That's a very good question. I think because of social media, things are obviously different. Um, but I think for the most part, at least in my experience, and this, Gold's obviously it is a unicorn, like you said. That's the perfect term for it. But when I go to other gyms, which I do, people are there to improve themselves, and I think that the community of people who actually get that have each other's back. Like even if they don't know, if I don't know someone and I see that they're there and they're like trying to improve themselves, like I give them the most props and the most respect, just like someone who is a professional, who is like in the, a shape I aspire to or lifting a weight I wish I could do. The person who's just showing up and doing what they can, I think we're all in it together. And I think, at least in my experience, that in most gyms I've been in, there's kind of that vibe. You know what I mean? Like even if there's some idiots and there's some people filming or whatever they're doing, overall, I think that like I've had some of the most meaningful conversations with people. I love when I see like older people in the gym and I talk to them. Like that just makes, it like lights me up because I'm like, I want to be that, like still getting after it.
Yeah, now I want to pick at this a little bit. Now you said some, some people, some idiots filming. Does filming in the gym bug you?
No, I mean, I don't care. I figure like I think as long as people are respectful of others and then they're
Okay.
not, the ones where it's like filming someone who may not know what they're doing or they have a unique variation on an exercise and they're making fun of them, like I think that's ridiculous. Like, don't do that.
Are you at all afraid of getting me too'd at the gym?
No, I
I'll put it
mean,
out there to me.
yeah,
I go to a couple gyms and like I, I'm a looker. I look
right.
at everybody.
Yeah,
I look at everybody. I look at your dog. I look at your cat. I look at your wheels. I look at you. I look at your shoes. I look at
right,
the person you're standing next to. I
right.
I look at everybody.
Yeah,
And I am so afraid. And I'm not saying I'm a leerer. I'm not saying I'm trying to dress people up and down when I stare at them. I
sure.
like to look at everybody though. I mean, I'm in
Yeah,
a public space. I like to watch. You know what I'm
right.
saying, dude?
I'm with you.
It used to
Yeah.
be like you'd be in trouble for putting your nose in your cell phone. And now when I go to a public gym, it's the only place I want to put my nose is in my cell phone because I am
Mhm.
just afraid I'm gonna get just my eyes are gonna cross glance at somebody doing the wrong thing and all of a sudden I'm gonna be like the next look at this creeper leering.
Right.
Like,
Right.
first of
And
all, hey
yeah,
man, I'm sorry I'm a creeper. And second of all, I'm not trying to leer, you know?
right.
Say
Right. It's
necessarily I wouldn't have been. Uh it's wild out there at the gyms now. It's not the same gyms as when I was 20. The dress code has changed. The
mhm.
cameras are everywhere. You
Yeah.
don't seem like you get to talk to anybody because, you know, I will just say, like, I've been going to the gym off and on for 20, 25 years. Headsets weren't as prevalent. Now, everybody, myself included, is just
Right.
locked in. You can't really engage in any like social interactions. So it's almost like everybody is just sort of like moving autonomously,
Mhm.
just trying not to bump into each other along the
Right.
ways. And it seems like some of the friendliness and some of the gym etiquette has changed. So I don't know. Any of that resonate with you?
Yeah, yeah, I will say like it's interesting you mentioned because I was just out of town, which I don't really go anywhere, but I was up, in like Central California at this gym, and it was so interesting because my workouts took me a lot less time because I realized I really didn't in these cases I didn't speak to anyone
Right.
when I was in there. Obviously at Gold's, and other gyms where I know people, like people, you catch up, you talk to them.
Yeah.
Uh, it's interesting. I do feel like a lot of people are kind of in their own world. Um, but also I think it varies, right? Like different environments, different times of day when you go also has an impact on it. And I think it's just kind of like I'm trying to figure out how to best describe it. It's like I'm the same. Like I look at everyone, I'm always surveying everything. That's just how I am. Like I
Yeah.
notice little details.
Yeah.
That's just, I don't know if it's situational awareness or what. Like I just look.
ADHD, whatever you want to call it. What?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There's something, and sometimes people will start talking to me. Sometimes I'll, mention, oh hey, like, I see that you're doing a lot of weight there or something, like and sometimes you can tell that people just do not want that. So I'm just
Right.
like, cool, cool. I'll have my music on and like I'll do my thing. The filming stuff, like again, if it doesn't like directly harm anyone, I don't think there's an issue. But I
Right.
do feel like there's a lot of people who are like doing things in a way to get other people's reaction and then film the reaction and then put them in a precarious situation.
Right.
And I think that's like the bad part of the culture
And
now.
that's probably not super common. We just live in a world where the most outrageous stuff bubbles to the top of the discussion, right? So,
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah, and we
I've
see
never
it.
seen anyone like filming themselves, and I've never seen anyone seemingly try to get gotcha'd by anybody else or anything like that. The gym always there's almost never anybody pulling out any cameras. I feel so self-conscious. Like I just don't like to record myself in like just public gyms because I sort of realize there's people probably behind me and it's just in the way. It just feels like, is this really what I'm here for? So I try to
Right.
avoid it myself. But it seemingly, you open up my Instagram feed and there's always two or three people either getting lit up for what they did to somebody or lighting somebody up that shouldn't be lit up. It just
Mhm.
seems kind of scary these days. It just makes me afraid to say hi or do anything but just keep my nose down. That's
Right, right. Well, because the
deadly
the
thing.
problem is you never know. It's so hard, you can't gauge it. And I think that's obviously, you've been in and out of gyms for a long time. Like it's a new phenomenon. It's
Yeah.
not.
And without, disclaimer, no one here is authorizing anybody to be pervy or creepy or rude or shameful to anybody, right? This is not, I'm not advocating for that. I'm just advocating, like, it just seems like the gym culture, the friendliness, that's what one of the best things that Mark had his gym open was there was
Mhm.
no headsets.
Ah,
No headphones, man.
I didn't know that. That's a good. I
Such a
like that.
big difference. People are talking, people are interacting with each other. I think
Right.
headphones really just creates this, and I love putting on my stupid Beats or air headsets or whatever I'm wearing at the time, and
Yeah.
and just zoning out to my playlist. I hate listening to the music over the PA. I wish they would turn it off, to be honest with you, because sometimes you're arguing with it, and no one in the gym is even not wearing headsets anymore. It's like, why do they even have this on?
Right. Right.
I do sort of miss I think everyone's starting to wear their headphones. I think that really just sort of started putting a different tone to the
Mhm.
gym culture in general. Setting aside
Yeah.
the salacious stuff that I was trying to totally bait you into talking about, but but yeah, I mean, I just think that since I think headphones have just caused people to be a lot less friendly in the gym, not necessarily rude, but just a lot less friendly.
Right.
What I mean?
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's just
Yeah.
what I
I
don't know
could.
what you thought about it.
Yeah. No, I definitely could see it, and I think like it depends on the environment, right? Like for whatever reason, still not been to Mark's gym, which I need to change
Uh-huh.
at some point. Um, but I think that's a good kind of a way to do it. Is like you guys have to interact, right? You kind of
Yeah.
it's just, and I think my kind of vibe, and this goes for the gym and just in life, is right, like just treat people the way you want to be treated. If you
Right.
want people to, you want people to just ignore you and look like do that to them. If you want people to be a little bit more open and friendly, like be a little bit more open and friendly ourselves and just, sometimes make that initiative to like say something or to, you know, I will say I had a buddy, still my buddy. He's a little wild, single guy, and
Okay.
he would go up to a girl in the gym and pull her headphone out of her ear and start. And I would always just be in horror. I'm like, bro, no. And somehow, I mean, I don't know if he still does it now. Um, Somehow there was never any negative consequence for him with this, but I just remember it. I'm like, don't do it, don't do it. Oh no, he's doing it, and he would go ahead and do it, and
Uh,
it would end up okay. But like, don't do that. I'm just gonna put that out there. Don't be that guy.
it,
Don't, like,
I'm,
come
hey, dude, we're so lucky to be married in today's world.
on.
It's
Yeah.
so confusing being single right now, I think.
Oh yeah.
I
I
think
can't
for
imagine.
there's probably, you know, a small group, male and female, that are just killing it right now in the dating scene.
Mhm.
But for the average shub, schmo or schma, I think
Yeah.
it's really rough right now to be single, dude.
Oh, I
Or
can't
maybe
even.
not, dude. Maybe not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, now and also I've noticed this too. Your passion for changing your life sort of led you down the road in the coaching,
Mhm.
right? How did that sort of what was that? How did that become a thing for you?
It's been interesting. Like when I first started this, I was a commercial and industrial real estate agent working in downtown Los Angeles.
You totally have real estate agent people skills. I'm very impressed. That doesn't
Thank you.
surprise me at all. I did
Yeah.
mortgages once upon a time, so I've always real estate people were always so slick and so smooth with how they
Right.
presented themselves.
Yeah, but and I was good, like I actually was good at my job and I was very successful at the time. And then once I got into like working on my own health and fitness, I was like, it didn't seem rewarding anymore for me to do what I was doing. And I think it's a combination of like I was just doing like industrial and commercial. I wasn't like helping a family get into a home, something where you could feel good about it and be, like, oh, they're gonna raise their kids here. They're like it was just like, hey, I need a place to store my fish, or I need a, refrigerated space here. I need a place to fix cars or whatever it was. So my heart wasn't in it. So when I started getting into my own like health and fitness journey, I like went back to school because I wanted to study it. I wanted to understand like why do things work the way they do? What have I learned through trial and error that there's like, scientific evidence behind? So I did that. And then I realized that if I wanted to be a registered dietitian, an RD, it was more school than I was willing to do at the time. Like I'm not great at math. I was just like, I'm not doing that whole curriculum just to get to there. So I stopped and I started to pursue independent certification type things, like National Academy of Sports Medicine and the thing, basically how to become a trainer and a coach. And I started working on that stuff. I started working in a juice bar just so I could get some like being around people who are interested in their health
Yeah,
on a
makes a lot
daily
of sense.
basis.
Yeah,
And so when I was studying for all my certifications, I was doing that. Once I got certified, I left there and I started just working on my own. But it's interesting, Russell, no gym would hire me for a really long time. And I think it was because of my appearance. I still had the excess skin. And I remember I sat down at an LA Fitness. I'll never forget this young guy who was a good looking, foreign dude. He goes, well, why should I hire you? You don't have a six pack. Who's going to believe you?
huh.
And I was like, did you not listen to anything I just said about losing 200 pounds and like going to school and studying and like where my heart is at in this and like how I want to help other people because I know how good it feels now?
Wow.
Well, we're in LA and people just want a certain look and you don't really look like a trainer. And I was like, got it. All right. And that happened that specific, like he just said it point blank, no filter on that guy,
Yeah,
which was interesting. But, I would go to like the fancier gyms here in LA and it was the same type, they didn't care about my knowledge as much as like, well, you don't look the part. And I remember one small independent studio hired me because I think they understood where I was coming from. And they were a really cool, it was a brother and sister, cool setup. And I got working there and I started training people and I started really learning how to deal with, I had, 18-year-old clients, I had 83-year-old clients and everyone in between. And I really started to learn how to deal with each individual. It's not like a one size fits all. And I really loved it. And I then ended up branching out on my own and doing online coaching. And that's what I do now full time is, I go to people's homes. I have people who come here. I do online and I help people because I felt like it would be selfish for me to not share how much better my life was, right? We had this conversation, all these benefits. I want everyone to get that.
Yeah.
And if I can facilitate that and bring that out in them, I mean, it's funny. Like I have a client the other day who's showing me his in-body results. It's like the body composition thing. And he's down like 40 pounds of fat. His muscle went up. The way he moves is so much better. He's a musician. So he's like, dude, I can like sing better now. Like I have more.
So cool.
And I like almost teared up because I'm like, I'm an emotional guy, but it was like so powerful to me because like I know how good that feels. So I was like, I'm like, don't make me cry, man. Like, but like it was just, it's powerful. It's life-changing stuff. So I think for me, being able to be like on the front lines with people is so important. And it's like, I mean, I've been doing this since 2013, so 11 years. And you see a lot of people on Instagram, the internet, who are coaches. There's a lot of bullshit. I will say that. I'm not going to like throw shade, but a lot of people don't do things themselves. They don't have their heart invested in it. But like when I do it, I'm in. Like I'm there with people because I know how important it is.
Yeah.
And
Hey,
I
man,
love it.
I appreciate you, dude. You've said it all. I can't even in like just in this early phases of like improving the quality of my health and my life. I've the physical just the reclaiming physical abilities just to move more freely and just to be
Mhm.
like this is so silly, so lame, but I sat in a booth for the first time in years and years, probably maybe a do I say a decade? Maybe a decade.
Mhm.
Booth for the first time was this Thursday. I was like, wow, okay,
Love it.
kind of
I
cool.
love that.
Another thing, like I'm just gaining gaining back my life, right?
Yeah.
There's no easy fix to this. And dude, I appreciate you so much for sitting down and talking to me. And if anyone wanted to reach out to you and follow your story or get a hold of you directly, how could they best do that?
Best way would be Instagram, Jordan Graham, and we spell it, it's JordanGrahm. So just think Graham without the ham.
And I'll make sure to include that link. Graham without the ham. Okay. Is that right?
Yeah,
It
Graham
is.
without the
It's great.
ham.
Okay.
Uh, and I'm here, and for you, for everyone who like, this is what I love. I mean, dude, the sitting in a booth, like I relate to that. Like I totally get it. I
Yeah.
broke chairs, I broke toilets. I like not having that limit you anymore is massive.
Yeah.
It's like a major, and people, it's not lame at all. Like people who don't understand it would be like, oh, what is he? But like, that's fucking huge,
Right.
you know? So it's like we got to celebrate that kind of stuff.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, I'm all for it. So that's why I put myself out there. That's why I do what I do is to help other people and to be in the trenches with them because like it's important and we're not alone.
Well, hey, thank you. Thank you for your time. I know you got to get going. You got some appointments you got to make too today, but seriously, man, thank you for taking time. And it was great to actually get to talk to you. I know we've been sort of
Yeah.
shadowing each other and saying hi to each other on social media for a few years now, but to actually get a chance to talk, it's Sunny. It's such a big reason why I'm even doing this, and I'm blessed to get to know people like you. So
Oh, thank
we'll
you,
stay in
Russell.
better touch, I hope. Okay.
Yes, yes, and I really appreciate you taking the time to have me on today and to ask such great questions. And I'm gonna make my way up there and I'm gonna train with you guys
Oh,
because I
dude, I
think,
would love that, and I know Chris would love to see you as well.
yeah, yeah, we're gonna make it happen. I'm
All
gonna
right, thanks,
message
Cam.
everyone. We'll make it happen.
Okay, next time. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right,
Thank you, Russell.
bye.
All right, bye bye.